Today, we are talking to Laurence from Mighty Comics and Collectibles to discover what he's learned from creating more than 1,000 videos on collecting. We will unpack what to look out for when buying comics, take a look at his personal grails, and pick his brain on where he thinks physical and digital collecting is heading over the next couple of years.
Thank you for having me, but I really appreciate the invite.
You've started your channel back in 2018, not 2018, in 2018. Um, why? Do you needed an outlet for like the passion for collecting, or what was the reason behind it?
It was weird because I had just gotten married at that time, and my wife has two younger boys. So the youngest one was into Spider-Man and he was into Marvel. And always loved that stuff growing up as a kid. So as he got more into it, the more I wanted to start collecting again. So I
Hmm.
always collected when I was a kid and a young adult, but then I got back out of it when I started working. So he kind of got me into it again, and then I started collecting not just comics, but then statues, then toys, then a little bit of everything. So to me, right around that time frame, 2017, 2018, I was like, you know
Hmm.
what? I saw a lot of guys pop in and start doing, YouTube collectibles, YouTube. So I said, I could do this, and that's kind of why I jumped on.
Yeah, and also because like it's pretty cool to have like a hobby together, right? That kind
Absolutely.
of stuff a little bit. Is he
Yeah.
still into collecting, or was it like just a short phase?
So you know what? He was more into Marvel before. He's still into like Spider-Man. We go to all the MCU movies and stuff like that. But now he's 14 years old now, he's gotten into video games, sports. So that kind of has taken over, what he likes more, but he's still into Marvel. So when I was a kid, I collected sports stuff. And even as a young adult, when I first got out of college, a lot of collectibles for the teams that I root for. I don't really do that anymore. It's strictly just nostalgia for me. It's like you could see like the wrestling figures I have in the back, like those were around when I was a kid, so they started re-releasing them, so I started collecting those again. So it's all my collecting is really based on things that I grew up with and that I still have an affinity for today.
Yeah, okay. That's great because I think like the part about collecting is like I think a lot of people start collecting or collected when they were younger. Then
Yeah.
life gets along, you get older, teenager, college, whatever, and it's like okay, collecting doesn't really play a big role for the most people. And then later in life they rediscover it, which is great, I think. And I think like the nostalgia part with it and the stories behind it, I think that's always like really special. So is there like a particular piece that has like a deeper meaning for you or a cool story behind it?
I have a lot of things in my collection that actually have cool stories.
Okay.
So I have like this one little Spider-Man figure. It's the name of the company who makes it is called Hamilton Gifts, and I've had it since I was a kid. Me and my dad walked into a local comic shop back in the 1980s or early 90s, whatever it was, and I saw it. I'm like, I was a big Spider-Man fan, so like I saw it, and my dad bought it for me, and I still have it till this day.
Nice.
Maybe someday when I'm not around, I'll pass that along to my youngest. But I have an Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man, so that also holds some really deep meaning to
Wow.
me because
Okay.
I really am a big Spider-Man fan. So
Yeah.
hopefully one day I can pass that along. But those are two at least Spider-Man, things
Yeah.
that I'm really hold dear to my
On
heart.
on the AF-15, we are talking about an original cover, not like I mean, that's obviously a reprint. I can't afford a 9.6 of that comic, but we
Yeah.
are talking about the like original one.
Yeah, I have it right here. If you want me to break it out, I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, 100%. I would love to see that.
Okay.
That's so cool.
All right. So there you go. It's the real thing.
Yeah, okay.
Just
Pretty nice.
something awesome that I always wanted as a kid, and now I have it as an adult.
There was a signature on it, or was I mislooking there?
No, you're right. It's signed by Stanley in silver right under the arm.
Okay. Okay, that's a pretty cool piece. Congratulations on that. I mean,
Thank you.
how did that came together? Like, did you bought the comic before, then let it sign and put it in, let it grade, or was it?
No, I bought it like that already. It was a funny
Okay.
story because it was I live in New Jersey and I had to drive up to Rhode Island to pick it up. So like that was a fun little trip I took up there, but But yeah, I always wanted a copy of Amazing Fantasy 50. And to me, like a lot of the books that were important to Stan Lee, like the things he created, I always thought like Hulk 1, AF
Hmm.
15. If I could find one signed by Stan, I think it meant a little bit more because I think those two, especially, were his greatest creations.
Yeah, 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 100%. I mean, that we don't have to discuss about that. I mean, that's so obvious, right? And I don't, to be fair, that's a topic I want to get into a little bit later. But I come more from like the digital collectibles side. Did you maybe hear about the company called Veve?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Because they published like Amazing Fantasy 15 as a digital version, and that was like the first time, because I never really had to do anything with comics. I come more from the Pokemon space back in the day, and then collecting was never a thing in my youth, I think, and in my early adulthood. And I got like reintroduced through like the digital collecting part into the physical side, which is pretty cool. Um, and I can just remember when that comic dropped on VV, like the whole community has gone crazy because of like the significance of that particular comic, right? Um, do you
Yes.
mind me asking, like, how much was it? Because it was a 2.5 grade, right? And I mean, that was
Yeah.
probably still quite expensive with its signature on it.
It I'll give you, it was 5 figures because I bought it a while ago. I've had it for a while, so it has increased in value. I think probably what it's worth about right now is about
Hmm.
$25,000. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
pay that, but that's roughly what I think it's worth. So
yeah. I think it's so crazy, like how like the overall collectibles market and collectibles as a category, like like had gone up in value and price, because like more, I would say more younger people also and older people with more money are interested in it. So I think for a lot of people it's like kind of an alternative to the stock market, or something they enjoy investing in, kind of.
I think what we talked about before about people remembering things from when they were kids and they want to kind of go back to that. So these type of things, these type of collectibles, you spoke on Pokemon before, you being a Pokemon collector as a youngin. Now of course Pokemon is enormous again. So like
Yeah.
I think people who love something when they were younger, now all of a sudden as adults, they have a little bit of money, they can go out and find something that's important to them regarding those
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah. On my live show last week, we had someone from the Pokemon creator on, and he was like, "Yeah, from my childhood, and now I have money, and now I can go hard at it." That was like I could feel that so much. And he's just looking out for Charizards and tries to collect like all the Charizards, and I guess he has like 80 something until today.
Wow.
So roughly half of all of them that are in existence. Um, but you also talked about like the figurine you picked up with your dad. First of all, such a great memory, and also awesome that this particular collectible made it through like through your all of your life until today. So that is pretty cool.
Thanks,
But
man.
before we talk more collecting, give people like a little bit, for those who don't know you and your channel. Give them a rough overview of your channel. What do you cover? What are the main topics of your channel, and why should people check you out if they haven't already?
So believe it or not, I actually run two YouTube channels. One is only been around for a little bit, but it's a podcast. It's called The Ultimate Rewinds, where we cover kind of anything that's nostalgic to us. So we talk about sports, we talk about television, movies, you name it. So that's one. But the main one you're talking about, of course, is Mighty Comics and Collectibles. I've been doing that since 2018. And I really just started with comics when I first launched. But recently, over the past like 3 or 4 years, I've kinda opened it up to all collectibles because I didn't just wanna talk about one thing that I loved. I wanted to kind of branch out and talk about the other things I love, like He-Man and the Masters Universe, like toys, like collectible figures, like, anything you can name it. Video games we've done stuff on that. So, my channel is basically focused on collectibles that I enjoy. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't bring other collectibles and other people on who collect other things because like we talked about Pokemon, I don't really know too much, But I know I have a lot of friends, a lot of other people in the collecting space who love that. So if I could bring them on and we talk about it, I'm open to anything in the collectible space.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I can connect you with our guest, like from last show, because that was pretty interesting to me, at least. Um, yeah, yeah. And I seen you do also like the top 10 comic stuff, etc. How do you
Yeah.
chose those comics? Like,
So I used to do a hot 10 and then a top 10, but I stopped doing the hot 10 because it became very repetitive and the same books are on it every week. So my top 10 list, which goes on every Tuesday morning, is basically I go to there's an app called the Key Collector app. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And every week they
heard of
put
it?
out
Yeah.
yeah, they put out a runners up list. And the runners up list has maybe about anywhere from 40 to 50 something comics on it, and I go out and pick the most. I don't want to say it's my top 10, but usually when I pick anything that comes on the list, it has to have some type of significance, whether it's a first appearance or a classic cover, an important book, something along those lines. So we pick 10 books out of that list and we rank them from 10 all the way down to the top book. Now that could rank because of how important the book is, how much it sold for, the percentage, gain that occurred over that time frame. So it really depends, but it's a fun list every week if you guys are into comics, especially vintage comic books where maybe you want to learn something about a certain book. That's the really what I take away from it. There's a lot of knowledge in that list. So if you're not really too familiar with vintage comics, you get a lot of good information.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And I think like the point of information is so crucial in the world of collecting because like first of all, there are so many scams and like
Yeah.
false statements and all that kind of stuff. And also, I mean, I felt it myself when I got back into collecting like 4 years, 4.5 years back. There was so much to learn, and I was just like, okay, where do I start? So if you take a look at someone who starts with collecting comics, what is something you would give them on their way to make like the first steps in this new world?
That's a great question. It really is because I think it's an important question. And there are a lot of people who go into comics and they start with the new books. And I do think that's a good, you know, first step into kind of delving into that universe. Go buy a couple of cool covers where you love the artwork and maybe you can read a great story out of it as well. Take a recommendation if you have a local comic shop. That's one thing I'm very lucky. I have a local comic shop by me where if I want to get into reading something, they'll recommend something that I'm not familiar with. But if you want to get into vintage comic books, we're talking about, first appearances, stuff from the, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and I'll even include the 1990s.
Hmm.
Just knowledge is power. Learning, first of all, what's important in a comic book, a vintage comic book, if you want to collect, and we're not talking about stories, what characters you like. Don't go out and collect a character that you don't have an affinity for. So if you like Spider-Man, go buy Spider-Man comics. Don't worry about the Avengers or anything else or Batman.
Yeah.
Pick what character you like, start with that, and then, learn a little about what's important to that character. Because you can find just by doing a little bit of research, whose first appearance is what's a classic issue, what's a classic cover. And that's when I'm a collector, that's the first thing that I want to start collecting is important issues, first appearances, so everything that I just said. Start with those important issues first, and then you can always work your way back.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also in terms of Spider-Man, there is so much to collect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are
Yeah.
so many important issues, etc. And I think if you at least you're rich, it would take you a little bit of time to collect all of this the Spider-Man stuff, right? Um, but
Absolutely.
but but besides being uninformed, what are like the mistakes people make normally when they start new? Maybe also in terms of like spotting fake comics or whatever. What is
I would
that?
say the first thing I would do is buy from somebody you trust, and that may not be the easiest thing that to find when you're just getting into comic books, but that's what like my channel's for. That's what other comic book channels are for. They'll help you kind of navigate. And me especially, like if somebody is a new collector and has a question about vintage comics, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. You could always leave a comment on the video. You could always contact me on Instagram at Mighty Comics underscore collectibles. I answer every question that I get from people just to try
Nice.
to help as much as I can. So that's the main thing. Don't overpay for a comic, know what you're buying, and buy stuff from reputable people. If you don't know anybody who's reputable, ask. There's plenty of people in this industry, especially myself, who can recommend trusted sellers.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome. That is great to hear because I think nothing is worse than starting off with the hobby and paying a scammer. And yeah,
Agreed.
I think that's just like shit because then like the whole fun is gone right at the start where it should start to be fun, right?
So
Um,
it's funny because if I could share a quick story, when I first got back into collecting in the early 2000s after I graduated college, I got scammed. I'm going to say this. I think almost everybody gets scammed at some point. It happens to everybody. It just hopefully it's not something big. For me at that time, it was a couple $1,000s, which is a lot of money back then. But it's going to happen. You learn your lesson. You kind of move on. But again, there wasn't social media back then where I can go and ask somebody a question or whatever. So
yeah,
it's a little bit
yeah.
easier now that we have a little help.
What was it back then? You do you remember? Probably, right?
Oh yeah. So back in the day, it was when eBay first came out. So I was buying stuff on eBay, which is great. But somebody had messaged me saying, if you want this comic book, you got to pay by. Back then it was called Western Union. I don't know if you know what Western Union is now. It's not around anymore. But basically, you go to like wherever they had Western Union, and you send somebody money that way, but there was no tracking it, and I didn't know that, and so I sent this
Ah.
person money, and then I never got the book in return.
And he vanished.
Yep,
Yeah, okay. Damn it. But really great to hear that you are like open, helping out new people, etc., and probably also like collectors who are already in this space and have a question. So that am I right that like the community aspect of collecting is plays an important role for you if you argue like that?
absolutely. Not just from the people on social media, but if you have a local comic shop, I can't tell you like how great they are. The great, um, the relationship that we have, just because we enjoy the same things. I try to support them as much as I can. But the actual community through Instagram and YouTube, there are so many great people that are really good people, and they enjoy going to cons together. They fly out to different states to meet each other.
Yeah.
So, and for the most part, I think all of them are willing to help new collectors. So there's some really good people in this community, and that's what makes collecting fun, man. When you can enjoy it with others.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. When I got into the Veve community, I say it like so often in our live shows and on other interviews, like I've never experienced something like this before. I mean, there are so many, so different people I would have never, and honestly never came across in my life, if not through like the same shared hobby. So that is so cool to see. Um, yeah, but you've talked about your podcast, your newer podcast before, like and you guys also do like film reviews and all that kind of stuff. Um,
Yes.
w- what impact like do new films or new releases have on like the existing collectibles market? Because that is a topic I find really really interesting sometimes.
So I think back in like the MCU heyday when all the movies started first coming out, you saw a lot of comics in 2000. I'll even go back to 2017. I hadn't done YouTube yet, but you saw like the impact some of these movies and later on the shows had on some of these comics where they would start really going up in price. And that continued till maybe about 2000, end of 2020 to the early part of 2021. And then we kind of plateaued and then we went straight down. But still now to this day, you'll see pops on smaller books here or there. I don't think anything major, any major books really shoot up, but there are some here and there when the new TV
Hmm.
shows announced or a new character is introduced. So there are still some that really shoot up in price. It's more, in my opinion, on the modern books, the modern stuff that comes out, because you'll see some of those books pop off really quick. If there's an artist that's really hot, they just announced a new Absolute Batman animation that's going to be coming out. So that
Hmm.
book, number one, just shot up recently again. So it's a big part of the collecting hobby. I wouldn't say I would go out and buy a book right then and there when you hear the news, because usually they tend to pop and then come right back down. So I'd wait a little bit if you haven't done anything like that, and then just wait for it to settle. And if you want to own the book, then you can go ahead and buy.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Was there like ever a book that like just exploded where you were thinking like, why? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's a book called Ultimate Fallout number 4, which is the first appearance of Miles Morales, which is a
Yeah.
great book, but it has a variant cover. It's called the Derjevic variant. A
Hmm.
lot more rare. And during that crazy boom that we had in 2020, the book went from a $7 or $8,000 book in a 9.8 to almost $40,000, which was insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has since come back down to where it should be around that price range, probably around $10,000. So
Hmm.
still an incredibly important book, first appearance of a major character, but that book went absolutely insane. And there's no way that anybody should have paid that amount of money during that time frame for a modern book, even though it was a variant.
Yeah. 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 Do you know? Do you maybe know like the print size of that book?
It's just a regular. Oh, you mean like how many were printed? I don't
Yeah.
know off the top of my head. It was compared to the regular issue, which is fairly common. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many of
Yeah.
the variant are out there.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. But I mean, still, the normal cover is like also really thought after because like Miles Morales is such a huge character and probably will be in the future. So I totally get it. This is, by the way, the second comic that like people in my community were like really excited about when that first dropped in the digital format. So that's how I discovered that comic for the first time because I didn't really knew about it beforehand. Um, yeah, but I get it. I mean, 40K for like a modern comic is quite expensive.
Yeah,
Um,
crazy.
any particular other comic that comes to mind on that front?
A lot of the Bronze Age books, like things from like the early 70s to the early 80s, are they went kind of ballistic as well, and people didn't realize how many copies were actually out there. There's quite a few copies of these books out there in good condition. So a book like Giant Size X-Men 1, the first appearance of the new X-Men team, in like super high grade 9.8 was selling for a crazy amount of money. Now that's down into like I wanna say like the $40,000 range. I could be wrong on that, but around that range where, back in the boom, that was going for, I think, over $100,000. So crazy, crazy numbers during the boom. But anything from that Bronze Age that's an important book and high grade really got out of control and then kind of settled back down around 2023, 2024.
Let us shift the conversation a little bit. I mean, you've shown me your amazing Fantasy 15 in a graded condition with the signature. Like, what is your stance on grading itself?
So I think grading's important. I think it's not going anywhere. I do think it's especially with vintage comic books, it's an important factor that people need to take in consideration. The one thing I will say about grading now, and it goes for all collectibles, not just comic books, but it's gotten very expensive to the point where not not every comic book should be graded. It really has to be over a significant value for me personally to be able to go ahead and grade a comic book. Obviously grading is important for collectors who are looking to buy collectibles as well, because a lot of them will feel more safe buying something that's already gone through that process of
Yeah,
being graded, authenticated, all that stuff. So it is important, especially to newer collectors. But for seasoned veterans like myself, I will hold off grading a comic book unless it's worth a significant amount of money, or for me, if I thought it was easier to try to sell. So that's really it for me. Because it's so expensive, I really pick and choose what I need to do. But like I said, it's not going anywhere. People are still going to do it. It does add value to certain comic books. I'm not going to lie to you. Like they're especially moderns. If you can get them graded and you get them graded in a 9.8 or a 9.9, the value really, really jumps as compared to grading vintage, Silver Age books, Bronze Age books, because all you're really doing by grading is assigning a certain value and protecting the buyer and the seller to say, hey, there's nothing really wrong with this book. Everything is kind of notated where it should be.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I didn't know that. Did I understand you correctly that it's like the value of the book gets more influenced through grading on the newer comics than on the older comics?
Because think about this. Let's say you buy a comic book, a raw comic book, a variant or something off the
Hmm.
rack, and there's no specific grade. So for someone to call that book near mint book or a mint book and a 9.8, they have to have that shown by a grading company. Somebody, I can't just hand somebody a book saying, "Hey, this is a 9.8," because that
Yeah.
9.8 has an assigned value. Once it passes through the process of grading and it's confirmed that that's a 9.8, it adds that value onto the book.
You talked about the fact that you like to grade comics when you try to sell them. First of all, I think the difficult part about grading is it takes so long nowadays. I mean, sometimes up to 1.5 years or so. I mean, I have two friends who are really big into the Pokemon game, and they sent like a big bunch of cards to, I guess it's CGC or was it PSA? I'm not particularly sure here, but they sent it like a year ago, and they were like, "Yeah, this Christmas they should be back." And I'm like, guys, I mean, yeah, I kind of get it, but it's still a little bit frustrating, right?
So for cards, definitely, it's got to be PSA because PSA actually just stopped grading a certain level of cards, so they'll only take like high value cards right now. So like because they were so far behind, whereas CGC cards, I don't think they're that backed up. So it's got to be PSA for them. But I will say for comics wise, it's gotten worse, and there were times where it was over a year because CGC was backlogged for comics. They're the premier grader for comics. PSA is
Hmm.
also new to the space. They do comics now, but their turnaround times for PSA comics is not that bad. But CGC at some point was almost a year, if not a little longer. But they've kind of reduced that time frame now. Although I will say that the summer's gotten here, things are picking up a little bit with people submitting books. So it does take a long time, especially on books that you think are hot right now that you should get graded. But for things that you've had in your collection for a while that you want to keep, I think you're fine submitting. It just for me, it's always been more about cost and if it's worth it to spend the money.
Yeah, 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 I totally get it. But if you get a good grade and like it bumps up the price
Of
significantly,
course,
I mean, I would wait for that a year if I don't like really need the money right at the moment.
of course, of course.
Um, but you also run an eBay shop, a merch store, etc. So you're also on the seller side, and you on a regular basis invite sellers onto your podcast, if I'm correct here, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Um, Are there particular pieces, I mean, besides the AF-15 and the figurine you've got with your father, are there particular comics or collectibles that you never sell?
I don't think you ever say never because you don't know what's going to happen later on in life as I get older, and I'm getting up there in age now. But I do have a couple of other books that I would like to hold on to for as long as I can. I have a Superman #1, but it's missing the cover. So it's just the book itself, and I have a faux cover on it, so it looks whatever. So I have that book. I would really like to hold on to that because it's a piece of history as well. And I do
Yeah.
have a Detective Comics #27, the first appearance of Batman, but it's missing a few pages
It's
overall.
the
So like
one there in the back at the bottom, am I right?
yeah, yes, it
Yeah,
is. So
nice.
that again is also missing the cover. But again, another piece of history I would like to hold on to for as long as I can. That's probably the cheapest one you're ever going to find anywhere. So,
Mhm.
as long as I can hold on to them, I will. But at some point, I'm sure I'll have to get rid of it.
Yeah, 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 totally get it. And I mean, those collectibles will have relevance forever. I mean, Spider-Man will not go away, Superman will not go away, Batman will not go away. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Um, but on the seller side, like, is it like a real job for you selling and trading comics and collectibles, or is it like a nice side hobby that gets you a little bit money in?
For me, like the eBay, like it's really a side thing. When I have something that I want to sell or I buy it and I found a good deal on it, maybe I want to flip it and try to sell it. It's just a hobby. The new thing that I've started using my YouTube channel, Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and another Instagram page called the Collectors Exchange. We do like live sales once a week, usually,
Oh, nice.
sometimes more. So I'll invite sellers or collectors on that I know that are trustworthy to come on the show with me and try to
Hmm.
sell whatever they have for sale. So we just started doing this. There are other people who are doing the same thing, but you know, some of these great guys and gals that have great product and not everybody gets to see. I thought it'd be a cool thing to kind of bring them on and kind of show everybody what they have and help them out, help myself out at the same time. I've done a show through there where I've sold some things as well. So
Yeah.
right now it's just a hobby, but I'm hoping down the road it becomes something more.
Nice. That sounds awesome. And I also think it's like great because like your viewers trust you and trust like the people you bring on through it. Because like as
Exactly.
we discussed earlier, like the trust part is so huge, especially when you spend significant money on specific pieces, right?
Correct.
Mm. What is like the longer term play with that here, or the longer term plan? You want to
You
do
know,
this more often and try to get together like a sellers network kind of thing?
yeah, I mean that's why I called it the collector's exchange. I think it's just going to be another avenue for collectors who are looking for certain things to come to a place and be able to buy. Later on down the road, I don't know if it turns into something else, more of an actual exchange or a website. I don't know. This is like it's kind of at its infancy right now. We just kind of started, but that's the hope. That's the hope we can have a place where trusted sellers can come on and buy, and vice versa, trusted sellers could go on and sell. So
Mhm.
that's the premise behind it. There are other people doing the same thing on Instagram, and I love all of them. They all do a great job. But for me, I wanted to take that piece of, like you said, me being a trustworthy individual, me having an eye for a good deal or not, and kind of bring that to my viewers and followers, and kind of grow that over time and see what develops.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and also probably lots of your viewers are also hardcore collectors themselves. So do you get like approached often if you want to buy collectibles or specific collections from someone who looks your stuff?
So earlier, like when I really put out like notices that I was looking for collections to buy, I would get them all the time. Not so much as of now, but I also understand now, like the people who have sold off collections, they probably have done so already. So I get a smattering here or there, but I'm always looking for vintage collectibles. I'll put it that way. Anywhere from golden age all the way through the copper age of comics. So that ranges from basically anywhere from the 1940s through the late 1980s. Modern stuff I'm really not that into, so I really wouldn't buy a collection based on modern, but I'm always looking to buy certain collections. Now, it's not really for me to go ahead and keep in my collection. It's more to kind of resell, but
Hmm.
I do
Yep.
understand that people sometimes they just want to get out. They have, medical bills or something comes into their life where they need money. And so if I can help someone out by buying a total collection, and help myself at the same time, that's what I'm going to
Yeah. Guys, you heard it here. So if you want to get rid
do.
of a cool collection, reach out to Lawrence here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you never know. You never know, right?
Of course.
Um,
Absolutely.
but we've talked about like the digital side of collecting a little bit earlier. I mean, you've said you know about Vivi.
Yes.
What is your take on it? Like your honest take?
I think when it first came out, obviously was really hot. There were people out there that it was a new type of collectible, and whenever that time frame was, there were people were jumping on real quick and buying almost everything they could. Now I could be wrong here, but some of them I think are like a one of a certain amount, right? It's only offered to like a certain amount. Am I right on that?
What do you mean by a certain amount? It's like a
Like
particular.
like uh,
Yeah.
so like there's only like an AF-15 like we talked about before. There's only so many of them that you could buy, right? It's not infinite.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah, yeah.
can't have one.
It's 10,000 in total, and then you have like different cover variants, but all licensed by Marvel directly. So, for example, you have the common one that maybe has like I don't know like the specific numbers on that collectible that has like 7,000 editions. Then you have the secret rare, which is the most thought after, that has like 150 editions, I guess, and in total it's 10,000 over all the rarities. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
And you
I think
can
it's a
read those
cool.
comics.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a cool alternative to people who don't want to get into the vintage comics if you want to go back and collect all these cool things. To me, the one thing always about VV and about digital assets to me is the price that you're going to pay for it. And obviously when some of these things came out originally, some of them were astronomical in price and some of them were very, very affordable. To me, something that was very, very affordable, I think really pairs well to a lot of collectors out there, and getting a lot of collectors to kind of take a step into that space is because it's available to everybody. So if something was $20, that's a pretty good jumping off point for somebody. Even if it's $100, that's still a good jumping off point in my opinion. When it gets to be like thousands and thousands of dollars is where I kind of step back and say that's
Yeah.
really going for more than the vintage. asset. So to me, that I look at it as something really cool, really collectible, but it has to be with a certain range for me to go ahead and support it.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you're not against it, but you're a little bit like critical is not the right word, but it's more how do I say it? It's more the fact that you think, okay, those digital items shouldn't be more expensive than like the actual true piece of history, right?
Yeah, I mean, if something's a one of one and maybe somebody wants to pay for it, go ahead. I just don't know. Like, there's nothing to go back on in history to say what that thing will be worth, in the future. That's my thing. There's no price point that we can kind of look back at. Vintage
Yeah,
comics is different because there's always been some type of track record of where they've kind of gone it. And most, at least the key issues, they tend to go up over time. Not all, but most. So
yeah.
something like that, a digital asset, you just don't know in the future. That's why I'm more hesitant. That's all.
Yeah, totally get it. I mean, the price often comes together from like looking at the physical piece. For example, the AF-15, one of the most important comic books ever. Obviously, like the digital version, I think the common one goes for like a couple hundred or so, and like the secret rare is 10K plus or so, because it's like just like 150 editions. um and also, like, what I really like about it, you never need to fear like the part of, okay, is this truly original, or is it a fake one, because that is like obviously displayed on the blockchain. And for me personally, as I said in the beginning, I came through the digital side. And don't get me wrong, in the beginning, I was just thinking like, hey, I can make a quick buck here, like probably a lot of people. But then, yeah, I have to be true on that. It is how it is. And obviously, I didn't because I hold on to all the stuff I bought. And then, like, the community kept me in here. As I said, so many amazing people. And through like the digital side, I picked up like a few physical pieces as well, because, like, for example, this comic here, I have a pretty cool mint on the digital one, and then because I liked the cover so much, I got like the reprint here. What if your favorite heroes and icons could live in the palm of your hand? That's now possible with Veve. Veve isn't replacing the way you've always collected. It's expanding your love for fandom in a whole new way. From the Human Torch, Grogu, and the Mandalorian to Darth Vader and many more, all waiting for you. Every collectible is officially licensed by the world's biggest brands and made limited through blockchain technology, giving you true digital ownership of what you collect. Discover Vivi today and kickstart your digital collection with 10 free gems to start your journey into this new and exciting world of digital collecting. Use my link in the video description to sign up. Happy collecting, and back to the video.
That's a great because we touched on a little bit before because people who want to get into the space maybe they're too intimidated to kind of go out and buy the physical assets first, so they start off with Vivi like yourself, and then maybe later on and say, you know what, I'd really like to own like an original copy, so that gets more collectors into the space, which is also a
Yeah.
very good thing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm totally with you with that. But you still oftentimes get like the argument, hey, it's something you can't hold in your hand. It's something digital that can't really have value, because, like, I think there's a, like, as you've said earlier, education in this space overall is so important to kind of get it. And I guess, like, especially on the digital side, there's like a huge gap in terms of being educated to understand what that actually means, and that you actually own this piece, and it's yours. No one can take it away, kind of. So I think there's lots of room for like the education part, and also necessary. I think it's absolutely necessary that people understand it, because I think the digital side and the physical side will merge and merge more and more over time.
The one thing I will say is in any space, whether it's digital or physical media, is that whatever that item is, it has to, if it's worth something, it's going to be worth something to somebody else. So if it's not worth something to somebody else, then it has no value whatsoever. If it does, then that's great. It goes both ways.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Um, and also like to stay on the digital space here a little bit. I don't know if you. I mean, you've said you are into sport, not that much into sports, right? In terms
No,
of
I'm a
collecting.
bit collecting. No, as a sports fan, I'm a big sports fan. But as of collecting sports stuff, not
Yeah.
really. I
Yeah.
have a few
Okay.
things here or there.
Because like Panini also has like a digital collect. Okay, you heard about it, right?
Of course, yeah.
And I mean, the sales in the last 2 weeks or so were just astronomical. I mean, a Lamine Yamal football player for like shit, was it 235, 210, something absurd. Like, and in the same week, like a Messi card, a Ronaldo card were like all above 100K. That was because those are one of ones, obviously. Um, and I mean, on one of ones, you just need one person that thinks that this is the appropriate price, right?
Correct.
So, yeah, crazy to see. I think that's pretty interesting because we had someone from the Panini blockchain community on, and I've never really been into that side of collecting, but it was so interesting to get a deep dive into that side of the hobby. That's why I'm a little bit hyped here.
That space, that anything trading card space, whether it's through Veve or physical, that space is the hottest space around in collectibles. So I can understand why things are going crazy right now, price wise.
And also, I mean, the same on the Pokemon card market. As soon as people just buy something and it doubles or triples automatically, they are all hyped, right? I mean, I get it. I mean, it's kind of free money when you pick something up.
Correct.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I think it's sometimes like a little bit sad because like oftentimes the real collectors have to pay a huge premium to get what they want, and I think that's a little bit, huh, but I guess it is how it is, right? Um, how do you see like the collecting market evolving? Because just a feeling on my side, maybe I'm not correct here, but I would say like that the comic book world is like a little bit older in terms of the age of the collector.
100%. I think most collectors are anywhere from mid 30s to probably mid 60s. So that 30-year range of adults. So it's a tough question. I don't know what's going to happen to comics as I get into my 60s, and I'm in my late 40s now, but we're talking about
Mhm.
20 years down the line. So I think if you're a collector, and I always say this on my channel, if you plan on buying collectibles for the next 20 years, I still think you're in good shape. If you're a young person, and you're 13, 14 years old, I mean, you're probably thinking of holding on to collectibles for 50, 60 years. So that's a little bit of a question mark I don't have an answer to, but I think if you're in the mid 30s to your, you know, late 60s, if you're in your late 60s, you're probably selling off most of your stuff anyway. But I think the collectibles market relating to comic books is going to be fine over the next 20, 25 years. I think people will be able to buy and sell relatively easy, not take a big hit, still make some money on the selling end if you bought at the right time. But anything after that time frame, I really just don't know because my children, although one of them enjoys Marvel, he doesn't go out and buy comic books anymore. So I don't know if that's going to make him come back and buy vintage comic books. It
Yeah.
remains to be seen. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, fair. I mean, 20 years is like a huge time frame. So,
Yeah,
especially in a fast changing world like ours today. So yeah, totally get it. But that's why I think that like the digital collecting side has like I personally think like a really bright future because, as you've said, like the younger generation is more attached to like digital than the physical side of it. And I mean, they already collect stuff digitally on Roblox, on Fortnite, you name it. And so they already are used to it. And what is in my personal view more important, they already attach value to something digital because I mean, having that one skin in that one game is like, wow, and all their friends are like, wow. While we are talking about like the two different worlds, in the physical side, what is like the biggest shift that you've noticed in like the last couple years you got back into the hobby? Was there any?
obviously for the people that know, we had a big, boom back in 2019, 2020. So that really kind of set the market back when everything kind of came back down in 2021 and 2022. So it set the market back a bit. So that was the big thing that kind of happened. But and now that we've kind of stabilized, I am seeing more of a shift of people kind of coming back into comics. We lost a
Hmm.
lot of people, a lot of collectors dropped out because of the beatings they took in value. But you're starting to see people kind of trickle back in with the newer comic books being so popular. And then some of those people kind of collecting new comics, but then also going into their shop and finding other things like whether they be vintage comics, whether they be Pokemon, whether they be other trading cards, toys. They all seem to be coming full circle again right now. Obviously, the card market is just through the roof. Pokemon,
Hmm.
sports, whatever. But comics have really kind of stabilized, and I think that is a good thing, at least from what I've seen over the past couple of years about people jumping back in the market.
I mean, back in 2021 or 2020, we had a boom in like literally everything, right? Through like the
Yeah.
COVID checks and you name it. So that was back when, like on Veve, for example, everything sold out instantly and everything. I mean, doesn't matter what comic dropped. You got like the worst or the common variant, and it at least tripled in price on the secondary market. Even though the comic has no relevance or less relevance than other comics. So yeah. While we're on that topic, um, so we've talked a lot about collecting now and your passion for collecting, the comic book market, where you see the future going. Is there anything before we wrap things up that we haven't covered where you are like, hey, this is important. That's an important message for me in terms of collecting?
So the one thing I think we haven't touched on that is important that not a lot of people talk about is the exit strategy. I've kind
Hmm.
of done that a little bit about selling collectibles off for my personal collection and then moving, that those assets into other things, other assets, I should say. So if you're going to be a collector, no matter what you collect, whether it's digital, physical, comics, cards, toys, whatever it is, have an exit strategy because I feel like some people out there, they just keep going and keep buying and they kind of put themselves a little bit of a hole. I never wanted to get in that dilemma. I was started selling little pieces off. Part of it was because I've had this for a while. I want to sell it and move it into a different type of collectible, which I also have a little bit of nostalgia for.
Yeah.
Others, I just wanted to get rid of it and put some money back in my pocket. I didn't want to leave everything to my family because they would have a horrendous time when I'm
Hmm.
gone. But pace yourself, pace yourself, have an exit strategy, know when to move off of certain things, know when to get rid of things. Even like we've talked a little bit about selling collectibles, especially when they've gotten hot. If you have something in your collection that just kind of a little bit of a bounce, a little bit of a spark, a heat up, maybe it's time to just to kind of sell that collectible off while you can to get as most value for it as possible. If you love something like I love my AF-15 or I love my Superman 1 or whatever, and you want to hang on to those things, I think that's great. I do the same thing. But everything else, know what's important, know what's not that important to you, and then kind of know how to move on from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Great ending words here, Lawrence. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for spending the time and educating me also a little bit more about the comic side. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me, man. This is a blast. I appreciate you.